Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode promises to be a masterclass in marketing transformation. Our guest is Rio Longacre, Managing Director at Credera, a global consulting firm known for blending strategy, data, and technology to help organizations achieve real business impact. Rio is also the co-host of the Signal and Noise podcast, where he helps audiences cut through the clutter of modern marketing to uncover what truly drives growth. With over 2 decades in advertising, digital transformation, and AI-driven marketing strategy, he's worked with some of the world's top brands to turn innovation into measurable results. We're going to dive into Rio's insights on the future of marketing in the AI era, the critical balance between data and creativity, and how companies can stay human while scaling with technology. Rio, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, same. It's really good to be on your show, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. So tell me your story. Like, how did you start doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it's funny. I feel like my career is kind of, no one's career is really linear, right? And not no one's, very few people. There's that great chart you see where it's like, what you think your career would be like, it's here in a straight line. And then it ends up being like, what it really is just crazy, like up and down and sideways. So I think that's kind of mine. But the constant theme is I've really always worked for the last 25 years in really advertising and marketing. I started out like I went to grad school for international relations, believe it or not. And I thought I'd be a diplomat. I was a freelance journalist for a few years and quickly discovered that it's a lot of fun, but doesn't pay a lot. Right. So decided to take a job at what then was a small indie agency. We were doing like digital media buying. This is kind of the dawn of digital media, right? We were signing insertion orders, which are really contracts to place media for a brand, right? The agency negotiates them with the publishers, right? We're doing that. It was a lot of banner, display ads, email, different types of inventory like that. Started doing that, did that for a bunch of years. Learned how to really cut my teeth in advertising, doing that on the media side. Worked in tech for a startup for a couple of years, and then it's almost 15 years at this point. Got recruited by a big four, big five, like consulting firm called Capgemini by their strategy division, because they were looking for people who understood digital marketing. And lo and behold, like clients wanted people who actually had done the work. So somehow they found me. I think it was through a friend of a friend, and didn't know much about consulting. I knew what the big four was, and got into that and enjoyed that. Wasn't easy transitioning. They called me an experienced hire. I guess I'd been a few years in the workforce at that point. So I guess transitioning wasn't the easiest thing in the world. Maybe that's a story for another time, but it worked out. And I ended up after that going to a firm called Slalom Consulting. I grew from 2,000 to about 13,000 people. And I was a global lead for advertising marketing transformation. And then I've been at Credera, which is kind of like Omnicom Consulting, where the strategy and transformation consultancy, like inside of this global holdco. I've been doing this for a little while and enjoying it. So, but I advise clients in advertising. That's the main thing. I advise clients on ad tech and martech and how to pick the right tools and how to be more efficient with their ad spend. So I guess that's the constant theme is I've really always been working in this space, like not advising people in marketing and advertising and how to pick the right tools, build the right processes, and really be more effective at their jobs.
Okay. And so I imagine that over the last 20 years or so, you've seen those tools change pretty wildly. Um, can you talk a little bit about, some of the tools that you used to use when you first started and some of the tools that are available now?
It's funny. It's the tools have changed, but they haven't, right? Like they've changed less than, yeah, they've changed a lot, right? And they continue to change. In fact, I think we're going through right now, and that's why I think your topic here about AI is like really important. We're going through right now the biggest change probably in the last 25 years in terms of the tools and how we use them. But they change to a certain extent. I remember when I started out, right, and the way you would work in digital media, like you got the client would tell you, I want to spend this much money. Here's my budget. You give them a media plan, and you would call the publisher. This is all very manual back in the day, right? We'd call the publishers and negotiate, and we'd fax over contracts and they'd fax them back, right? It was literally done that way. I'm not kidding, right? But obviously that's matured, right? I guess the biggest change in advertising and media was about 2008, 2010, this thing called programmatic came. And programmatic, what it does is it creates an online auction where instead of having to negotiate everything, like, okay, it used to be you would, okay, we're going to negotiate. We're buying basically impressions, which every time an ad comes up, it's called an impression. You could buy CPM per thousand, cost per thousand impressions, or you could be cost per click, cost per thousand clicks, or cost per lead, or cost per action, CPL or CPA. So different ways you could buy media, and then you just negotiate it ahead of time, and you agree to some mutual way to track it, right? And then I think the big change of programmatic was it created this ecosystem where all that's just automated, and programmatic being a euphemism for just like automating, right?
Mhm.
Programmatic, it's called open exchange, really what it involved into. It uses this thing called real-time bidding, where you have these demand side platforms where you make your buys, and then you have supply side platforms, DSPs, SSPs, and you have like ad exchanges. And there's a mechanism that's an auction where everyone's bidding on that real estate on that website, and then the highest bidder in theory wins, right? And then that way you're making the most money for the publisher, and the advertiser is getting the placement they want in front of the audience they want. So that all became automated around that time, 2008, 2010. So that was a huge change. That really changed, everything. I mean, there's still some manual components depending on how you structure media deals, right? And not all media is digital. A lot of linear television still come done the old-fashioned way, believe it or not. But generally speaking, that was a big change. And I think what just happening in AI now is going to completely change things again, and in ways that, I mean, we're starting to you can kind of predict, but no one knows where this ends up.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that, and I believe that the people who are, uh, prognosticating on where it's gonna end up are it's gonna be interesting to see where they are in 5 years or even 1 year.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's funny. We interviewed a contact of mine. I worked with him for a long time. He's an expert in web analytics, like one of the best in the business, right? And he believes, and I don't disagree with him, that within the next 2 to 3 years, because of AI and Vibe analytics, right, that existing analytics platforms they won't exist the way the dashboard will be dead, and a whole like 25 years of like web analytics tools, digital analytics, product analytics tools, they'll be reinvented, right? Some will survive, most won't, and new things will pop up. And so it's I mean, it's going to be a seismic change, and we're already starting to see the beginnings of it. So it's kind of exciting.
yeah, yeah. So, you're talking about that you advertise or not advertise, that you, uh advise clients on, different kinds of technologies for in the ad tech and the marketing tech world. So, what do you see as the biggest barrier to to getting organizations to adapt, new technology and to transform what they're doing, and how do you help them overcome those objections or those fears or whatever?
Yeah. It's funny, like a lot of like, I get called in a lot. The client will say, "Oh, like I want you to look at my Martech or my ad tech stack," and sometimes definitions of what those can be vary a little bit, right? Because within, let's say, technology that people in on the business use for marketing and advertising, it could be Martech, it could be ad tech, and then sometimes people carve it up into sales tech and service tech, right? This is different, just different parts of the stack, right? They're different tools. And it's funny, generally speaking, everyone thinks they're missing tools when we do these assessments. I have capability frameworks I bring in, but I mean, it's usually not the case. Usually, maybe it's too many tools, or fragmented tools, or tools that aren't integrated correctly, or even used the right way. I mean, more often than not, that's what happens. So usually, it's like, oh, you have too many tools, maybe not using them the right way. You're not connecting them. Like I did remember one assessment I did with this global beauty company, and like they have like almost 90 martech and ad tech tools. Crazy, right? Like you have too many, like, but only a few are actually connected to their CDP and their C360. So they really had all these like tools on islands kind of that were just not connected. I see that a lot. But in terms of leveraging new stuff, it's I think a big change. So I mean, if you go back, maybe the rise of SaaS, software as a service, right? We saw that starting like the 2010s, right? Everyone started going from these on-prem tools to increasingly like, okay, we're going to have like our CRM. Salesforce was like no software, right? Because it's SaaS, because it's, in the cloud, right? That was the big trend, is everyone started in marketing started getting these SaaS tools. And that led to this kind of IT sprawl, or shadow IT, a lot of people in IT would call it, where marketing kind of
Mhm.
owned its own IT that sat in the cloud. They just gave credit cards for, right? So I think that was a big change. And for many years, a lot of people in marketing just bought their tools on their own, right? Like they didn't even have to tell IT. And eventually, I think the last 5 to 6 years, we've seen that trend kind of stop where IT is now saying, no, listen, like if it's great if you want to get Snowflake and you want to have Salesforce or all these tools, but like we're going to make sure that we know what you're getting. We're going to make sure that we validate it's the right solution. We're going to make sure that we integrate it the right way. We're going to make sure that it meets all of our privacy regulations, whether Europe is GDPR, here it might be CCPA, CPRA. There's different privacy laws. We're going to make sure that it adheres to all of our standards and policies. So IT is very much involved in this. So I think that, and so is legal, and so is privacy. A lot of times, if you're looking at PI or first party data, right? So I think that what slows things down a lot is, the tools are easy to get, but they're at an enterprise level. It's not so easy as like, giving a card anymore. You have to go through these processes, which are generally a good thing, but they do bog things down quite a bit. On the subject of AI, if you even bring, like, I've noticed this, if a tool has, you kind of have to say your tool has some AI in order to get any mind share now. But if your tool has AI in it, it really slows down the procurement process a lot in enterprise, because you'll have lots of additional teams coming in. Okay, like, how are these models being trained? Is it in a container? Are we using our knowledge or insights or IP to train other clients? We don't want that. So there's, like, you add IT to the AI to the equation, it does slow things down a lot because you have lots of additional hoops to go through. So that's a big impediment.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine because yeah, if you're uh, a healthcare company or a finance company or something, you don't want yeah, is your confidential information getting out into the wild.
And no way.
Um,
In fact, what I hear a lot is interesting. The client, especially in healthcare, they'll say, we want to take advantage. Like, let's say you have a vertical LLM for healthcare, right? They've trained. We want to take advantages of as the LLM improves, but we don't want you to learn from us to make it better to help other people. So they hear that a lot. So it's okay. How do we navigate this? So I think
yeah.
when you look at AI, you do have to navigate additional and jump through hoops, navigate additional things, which is fine. It's just part of it. And also, I think with AI, what's really challenging for a lot of AI companies now. Like I've been advising one out here in Colorado called Cleaxa. It's a kind of really cool tool, right? That it does a lot. Does a lot of things for clinicians in a practice setting. It does annotation, take the soap notes, gives like clinical pathway recommendations, and then it like packages it up and sends the claim to the fulfillment house, that then forwards it on to assesses that and forwards it on to the payer,
Hmm.
to expedite the claims process and rebate, and which is great, right, for the clinic, right, because it's like for RevOps, it's fantastic, but like the biggest issue I think we've run into helping them with their go to market is like you call up these health systems and they'll tell you like, I've got 100 AI tools I've got to review. I've got like every one of my organization is telling me they found this cool tool, and IT is, and say the CMIO, they're saying, listen, great, we're going to review this stuff and it's going to take time. I talked to, like, I think it was Vanderbilt. Like they said they had 100 solutions in their queue.
And I
Just
live in
no way they'll
Nashville,
get
so
through.
yeah,
There's no way.
Vanderbilt's right down the street.
Yes,
Um,
that's a class A
now,
place for sure.
so for your firm for Credera, what AI products or services are you using now, if any?
Yeah, it's interesting. Internally, we've got this great tool. Like, I mean, every big agency and holdco, like we have to invest in AI. I mean, it's just like because clients are demanding it, right? They're saying, okay, well, show us what you've done, right? We want to see, like, what does it do? Like, is it better than your competitors, or at least as good, right? And how is it going to save money on the services you're offering, right? So we're getting asked all the time. So yeah, we're making really big investments. We have this platform called Omni, and like they're building turning it Omni AI, and the vision really is to automate all of the whole like media process, right? From planning to um, creative audience selection, trafficking through to activation and measurement and all that. Like the goal is to have that all just done agentically and with AI. It'll take a while, but so we're making some pretty big investments. But also one thing I like about this role too is I get to work with lots of cool startups and see what they're doing. Like, some really interesting, like I think things coming out. In fact, just in ad tech, there was this announcement, ads ad CP, right? Which is, like MCP server, right? But it's for ad tech, it's like, it's pretty cool because it's basically like standardizing the nomenclature and and the taxonomy and the definitions of all of these things that ad tech tools do. So when you connect these tools together, let's say you build an agentic layer on top of it, it'll be easier to do. And what I think is interesting too is in the future, if you really, and I think this is going to happen, right? You're just going to be tools that like people talk to, probably natural language, writing combination. It'll probably query them, but I mean, in the future, it'll be one agentic experience that lets you hop across different tools, right? I think that's probably what we're going to see as well. Like, here's a tool that does like algorithmic big bid management. Boom, we're going to hit it. If we need it, we're going to use it. Use our MCP server to talk to them to do that. Oh, here's another tool that does creative generation, right? Oh, there's another tool that does this. So probably hitting other services, this, and for the marketer, they'll just be able to sit and talk to this thing. It'll kind of work seamlessly instead of having to swivel around or build these complex like UIs. I think in the future, it'll change SaaS. It'll change the way these tools look. We'll interact with them more the way that humans are meant to interact, right? Because ultimately, I think, we can train someone to use a clunky SaaS dashboard with like knobs and controls, and people can become really good at it. But the reality is, like, you shouldn't need to train people. These things should just kind of work. Is that, if you believe in that UX as a discipline, that's where things are going. So I do believe in that. So I think things are going to look very different. It's going to take a few years.
Yeah. So with all of the new things that you're trying, trialing or bringing in, actually putting into production, have you had any stories of things that just didn't work, or things that started working completely differently than they were supposed to? I don't want to, I don't know what else to call it, but yeah, are you having issues with that? Hallucinations or bad data or
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you got to be careful. Hallucination is funny. It's like we have our internal tool. It's pretty good, right? So but it's funny. So it's interesting too. So I've noticed that. I mean, I use it all the time, right? And I tell clients I'm going to use it, right? And like they know that, right? And it's part of the reason why they work with us, right? So it's interesting. I mean, as a consultant, you should be, but I've noticed some of the junior people are more reticent to use it. I find that interesting. I thought they would be ahead, but they're like almost like, oh, we don't want to be cheating. I was like, no, guys, you're not cheating. Like, you should be using this. It'll speed your job up. The client's paying us, there's an hourly rate. If you can do it in 20%, 30% less time, maybe you should be, right? It's the right thing to do for the client. If it improves the quality of your deliverables and your insights. But you got to be careful. Like, I'll give you an example, right? So I was trying to create this one slide. I was struggling to slide for like maybe an hour, right? Like, what do I really wanted to say? I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't know how. So I said, okay, wrote this really long prompt. And I think that's the key. Like, you got to become better at prompting. You have to know that, okay, I'm going to put a lot into this prompt. I'm going to, like, if I want to write a blog post, right? I'll put like 10 different articles I want to read. I'll say, listen, I want you to read these for background research. I want you to read these bunch of things I've written in the past so you can learn my tone and voice. And I want you, here's how I want you to structure it. Here's some of the arguments I want you to use. Go for it. That's pretty good. Okay, I want you to change this and reposition it this way. Oh, okay, I want you to make it a little shorter. So, like, you have to learn how to prompt these things and work with them kind of iteratively, and that takes a little practice. But I think you also need to know with these things that you've got to you, you got to trust but verify, right? Like, I remember
yeah.
this one slide, I spit out all these things, and this one stat, I was like, that is the perfect stat. Wow, okay, that's exactly what I was looking for. So I was, you know what? Like, where did you get that? It comes back, it's crazy. It comes back and says, I could not find it anywhere. I said, so did you make it up? Well, I looked at all these sources and I made it up. I mean, it's like, it's like, hey, that's an hallucination, but they cover themselves up. It was presented so convincingly. So I said
Yeah.
I said, listen, like, you have to check every fact that thing gives you. You have to go to the webpage, click through,
Mm-hmm.
see what that number is, see where it, like, find out where it got it. And then, because I don't know if you heard the example, I think it was Deloitte in Australia. They were hired by one of the local governments there. They pumped out some, like, 50 whatever page report on something, charged the client $500,000, right? And then the client found all these hallucinations, like things that were not true, and they asked for a huge refund. They got it, right? So it's like, so I said, like, to the team, like, you should use these tools. They'll speed your work up. They'll make you a better consultant. It'll lead to better quality output, but you have to be really damn careful and verify everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I have found for me, learning to, I got lazy with just like Google searches, just type in a very simple sentence, and then I would do the filtering as I scrolled through the different results they came back with. And that doesn't work for Chat GPT. If you want a really good response or good output, you need to spend some time thinking about the prompt. And there are times that my prompts are really long now, and then in my personalization, I specifically said, don't make things up. Tell me if you can't find
Yep.
something or don't know something, and never apologize.
You gotta tell it. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny, Turing test, right? Remember like 10,
Mhm.
like the okay, ChatGPT came out what, like October, November 2022, right? Before that,
Yep.
everyone was like, oh, the Turing test, wonder when the day will come. We blew by that, right? It's so funny. Like the software, like you and I, like normal people have access to. This is what I find so crazy about this, right? You think about, if you like $20 a month, you can get normal Chat GPT license. You can do the pro for a couple $100. I mean, or Grok is 300. And I think that the, Gemini is like 250. So like, these are not expensive, right?
Yeah.
And this is the same quality models that the best AI researchers in the world have access to. We have access to for almost nothing. It's crazy.
Yep.
No one saw this coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting times to live in. But along with the excitement comes some trepidation, little anxiety over. I've got two young kids, who just graduated from college, and I do wonder, what is their life going to be like in 5 years or in 10 years?
Well,
When things have
yeah, I
gone
mean,
even
it's a
further.
good point, but I think for young kids, I mean, so like I posted this yesterday in LinkedIn. If you compare the, if you look at the stocks have gone up great. It's been,
Mhm.
I mean, my portfolio has performed really well the last 3 or 4 years, right? And
Yep.
especially in tech, right? Job growth has plummeted. Like there's like new job listings are way down. There's some jobs, but they're actually weighted more towards senior roles, right?
Yep.
Which is interesting. Very few junior roles. Now, you could argue that, okay, firms overhired during COVID. They all did, right? Like they went ballistic. Everyone did. All the tech companies, I think they all grew by like 50 to 100% during the kind of the COVID boom. And then there's this bad hangover. Everyone's just been going through rounds and rounds of layoffs, trying to right size since. So I think part of it is maybe the reaction to that. Okay, we overhired. Now we're going to be overly cautious. Part of it is, I just think, natural process, right? But is any of this being driven by AI? Some of it could be. I think maybe less than people think. Like I read an article today. It's funny. I found it on X, and they're talking about, I think it's one of the big I banks, right? It might have been like Morgan Stanley or something, or maybe it's Goldman. Like they were laying off like a few hundred people, and they said they were going to. They said it was because of AI, and then they said they were going to outsource the jobs to India. It's like, wait, it's not. I mean, you're using this as an excuse to just like take a lot of these analyst jobs and do them overseas for half the cost, right?
Yep.
So the AI's a red herring in there. It's like they're not really like it's not the real reason. I mean, they're just trying to cut costs and be cheap, right? And boost their stock price and pump up their margins, right? With that, but it's just, I mean, that's what they want to say. But they're using AI. So I wonder how much of this is not really AI driven. They're just using AI kind of as
It's a
the
scapegoat.
excuse for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good questions. Good questions.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think it is tough for young people though. There's very few entry level jobs. And I think as the AI tools get better, there will be fewer. So I even tell people that isn't, two things AI can't do. It can't have a network of people that it knows, and it can't have a reputation, and it can't be like, it can't know people and be indispensable to them. So you better build your network, get to know people, get out there, get out. You don't sit inside, like get out there and meet people, right? Network and go to happy hours and go to events and conferences and build a brand for yourself. And then at the same time, you know, make connections with people. So like when they need help, they'll call you. That's AI can't do that.
yeah. No, that's good advice. I'll actually have to give that to my oldest son. He graduated with a degree in computer science 2 years ago and has been unable to get a job as an entry level programmer. So it's um, but So I think that's coming to the end of the podcast. So I did want to ask, what do you want people who might hire you to know about you and Credera?
Well, I guess like my area is it's very specialized, right? So I mean I work with companies that want to solve their toughest problems in advertising and marketing, right? And who want someone who understands ad tech, but also all the things that go into media. That could be the operations. Like I'm working with a big company now, helping them like go from the kind of an outsourced agency model to bring in some of the tech and data in house, right? In order to get more transparency, get better fighting, reducing ad fraud, have better brand safety, and improve some of those things, which you're only going to do if they kind of take some of these like platform licenses out. So a lot of this is operating model, ways of working, ways of doing business. So I think that, if brands find they want to go through this transformations and they want to use some of these new tools and they want to look at AI and they want to maybe take this opportunity to think about how they go about doing this entire thing, it's a good time to do it, right? So I mean, I think that's the most fun work that I do, right? It's there's a big tech component, but it's not it's like how you're using the tech, who's using it, what data is it pulling from, what's it connecting to, what processes are you using? It's all related, and I think that helping solve those problems is super fun. So I would say any advertisers out there or marketers who looking to solve those problems is something I really enjoy doing. I've been doing for a long time. I think it, and then, just generally looking at, I mean, the organization I work at, we're a big systems integrator and advisory firm. So we do tons of work across, and a lot of that work now is AI, right? Whether it's helping organizations identify how to use AI to improve their business, or it's building specific AI applications. We can help them with all those things. And I think increasingly a lot of our work is in that area. So, I could go on for a while about what all the things that the company does. I mean, we're part of Omnicom, which is a big global holdco, right? I think there's hundreds of agencies that are sit within the holding company. Everything like from really good like creative agencies to media agencies to analytics. I kind of it really runs the gamut. But again, my area, the place I've worked in for a long time, is on the kind of the systems integration strategy side.
Awesome. Well, Rio, it's been a real pleasure talking to you and hearing about some of your stories and what you do. And I appreciate the time that you spent with us.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, yeah, I guess one other thing too, like if I find this is something that as like someone who's been doing this a long time, I can really help. If like someone wants to know what are my competitors doing, I obviously can't share like specific IP.
Mhm.
I can't ever do that, but generally, if, I think the value that we can bring is we work with all the biggest brands. We know we can tell you about what we're seeing, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. Because I think for a lot of marketers, right, they're your head down, trying to knock out, do their jobs. They're wondering what everyone else is doing, and we can help. I can certainly help shed some light, and I find that can be very valuable. Benchmark what they're doing against the competition, look out there for key trends and stuff. So, and I love doing that stuff. Also, like if anyone ever wants, like, I write a lot of content about specific problems. Like I wrote a bunch of pieces this last summer about what AI is doing to the publishing industry and how it's really beating down monetization. On my podcast, we interviewed a couple of people. So I really, really like that. And if there's any specific topics anyone wants to really nerd out and talk to me about, they can hit me up anytime on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it, and certainly appreciated having you on our show.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
All right,
A lot of
take
fun.
care.
You too. Bye.